to a new episode of To Costa Rica Real Talk, To Costa Rica Real Estate's podcast on all things real estate and Costa Rica. And today I'm joined by Pollinger, part of the Real Luxe Leaders. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming to the 2CR Collective and having a great speech you had a couple of hours ago.
Thank you very much.
And perhaps to introduce the podcast, can you tell us a little bit about Real Luxe Leaders, a little introduction of company history perhaps?
Yeah, absolutely. So Real Estate Luxury Leaders was founded about 7 years ago. And we do coaching and consulting for just the luxury real estate brokers, brands, teams, and agents.
And how is that process, particularly of establishing a coaching and consulting company in such a specific realm?
Well, my background in history is in luxury real estate. I've been in the business for 30 years and had a lot of success with running really large real estate companies. And we took that success and bundled it 7 years ago and started really just working with individual people that are elite in the industry. And so that was our focus. The one thing with luxury is everything is individual. And so most of the coaching and consulting companies out there, they try and make people fit into their mold and their systems, where we look at the client and build systems for their business. And luxury demands that, but it is a very specific niche because it is very, very labor intensive. But that's where we came from, and that's where we are, and we've been really successful at carving out that niche. We're the only ones really doing it, so it's been super fulfilling, and we love seeing the success of our clients.
Yeah, and in the process of preparing a speech or for a conference, as you mentioned, specificity and the individual process is very important. So how do you address speaking to 30 or 40 different people?
Great question. I'm unique in the fact that I have some core things I can talk about and kind of whip out at any given point in time. But every presentation we do is highly unique and completely customized to the audience. And so the presentation today was based on what Scott and Todd were looking for and was completely custom for today's audience. And so that's just, that's part of one of the great things about having 30 years of experience is you have a lot of stuff you can draw on and a lot of things you can talk about.
And also, how is that process of the empowering the agents, particularly discursively? Because in real estate, usually the mold is you just tell agents you have to sell more. This very quantitative, just the volume of sales needs to go up. But at the same time, there's from what I heard from you, it's more holistic understanding of what entails a real estate agent. Yeah,
well, real estate is a unique business because it can be a very lonely business, and it can be a very frustrating business just because the checks are very large and the time between checks tends to be very large for some people as well. And so when you understand the entirety of real estate, you can find different places where you can have strategies and tactics that are unique for the individual person. And so helping them do what's unique to them is more effective, and it's more efficient, and the person enjoys it far more than if you just try and tell them to do the same thing that everybody else is doing.
And also, when preparing also the conference, you talk about the importance of being brief beforehand of what the general topics are. How do you also perhaps, I don't know if you do any extra research or any form of preparing additionally?
Yeah, there's always a preparation process that goes into it, making sure that you are talking, not only meeting the needs of what the audience needs, but also the uniqueness. I mean, this is the first time I'm doing a presentation in Costa Rica. And so understanding the various cultural aspects of Costa Rica and the uniqueness of the market in Costa Rica is different from different places. And so having some understanding of that really, helps in the preparation process and is part of the system, I guess. Mm-hmm.
And also, one part of your talk that was very, very inspiring to me is the idea of embracing the distinctiveness of each agent.
Yeah.
How do you tend to tell that to people? How is that process of setting that idea in?
Well, the great thing is you're in the marketing. You're in the marketing business, so you understand that marketing is at the very core in today's world telling somebody's story. And so helping them understand their story. A lot of people are blind to what their story is. They don't necessarily know how to articulate that. They don't know how to build things around that. So we help them discover that and then help them build and expand on that so that they can amplify their voice within the marketplace, which is the most effective way to do marketing, is just be authentic in the marketplace. People respond to that.
And also something that talks about all the time is about like how, particularly like luxury real estate, people in Costa Rica are not buying like their first home. There's like their second home, their vacation home. So it becomes more almost like an emotional buy in a way. How is that also that process of like balancing out like the emotional aspect of the transaction, and also like the more like clear-headed decision process?
Yeah, great question. All humans buy emotionally, whether it be a candy bar at the grocery store, or whether it be a house, or whether it be a car or a boat, airplane. It doesn't matter what it is. They emotionally will buy first, and then they justify it logically, right? I mean, so if I really want something, now my brain goes into the logic mode as to why I need it. And real estate, when it comes down to it, understanding the emotion leads first. You tie into the emotions on that side, and then you have to know the business well enough that you're justifying, and you have the knowledge base to draw on when they're using logic to justify those decisions.
And also wanted to ask you about the idea of like consulting and coaching, particularly with the archetype of what a real estate agent is. It also comes with some ego sometimes when you're very successful, particularly in like the luxury realm. How is that process also of like telling someone that they can learn from like coaching and consulting, even if they just sold like a $20 million home?
Yeah, well, egos are part of our business, and that is egos are a great part of our business. They can also be blind spots where people, don't see what they should see because their ego gets in the way. But fortunately, over the years, I've had the privilege of working with some of the biggest names in real estate, and so one of the things that I've developed some level of reputation for is being an ego whisperer, and helping people see through where the facade of their ego is and understand the reality of what's below it. But also we have a lot of proof. We've created a ton amount of success. Our agents and our clients are super, super happy. Our retention rate with clients is over 90%. So we're good at what we do. And when you're good at what you do, the egos tend to listen.
Mm-hmm. And also, you mentioned earlier about the idea of like how marketing and like the platform each agent has is a way of them telling their own story and their own narrative in a way. And also, I guess like after like real estate, being a real estate agent tends to be like a kind of like a maligned line of work, or used to be at least like the comparisons to like used car salesmen and people like that. How is that also that process or that challenge of like reframing what people think when they see like, real estate agent?
Well, the reputation of real estate agents has not been good. And it's not good for good reason. There's a lot of really mediocre or really bad real estate agents out there that give the industry a bad name. But in any industry, the very best at what they do, the more the very best do of what they do, the better the industry gets, the better reputation gets. And so you overcome bad reputation, and you overcome kind of a bad industry reputation by being very good at what you do and demonstrating you know what you're doing, and you care for the client, and you put the client's needs above your own.
And in terms of like taking that into like the personal branding process, as you mentioned, it's not the same for everyone. And to some people, as we've talked about, like being successful in this realm and getting those sales also perhaps it's counterintuitive to just like putting in your social media that you're doing like normal life, being with your family, with your friends. How is also like switching that like switcher on of like, okay, I need to portray myself as a human, not someone that just sells stuff. Yeah,
well, authenticity is key, right? And in today's world, that's what people are looking for. Is they're looking for people that they can relate with and connect with. And we see all the time in today's world that you don't need to be perfect. In fact, perfection is not even believed. If somebody's too perfect, it actually costs them business because people don't believe that they're perfect. So you have to show some of the rough edges, and you have to show some of the real life and share some of those stories and be real with people, and people respond to that.
And how is also that process of finding the tools to get your essence across the screen in social media and platforms like that?
Yeah, we've created a number of different systems that really help agents walk through who they are, what their core values are, what their inherent strengths are, and define that into a really solid narrative. And we've been able to take those things and create marketing programs for them, dialogues for them, scripts for them, for videos, to give them a starting point to really understand how to amplify their voice until they're comfortable doing it on their own.
And I wanted to focus on something you also mentioned during your talk. That's that process when it deals with like a luxury market such as Costa Rica, when there's like a case of many people coming from outside and coming here and selling the dream of what it means to come here. How is that also for an agent, that process of assimilating the setting and basically making being an expat or being someone foreigner part of also like that selling process and that personal branding?
Yeah, when it comes down to, I think one of the fundamental things, and is the easiest starting point, is when somebody has a listing, ask the sellers, what made you buy this property? Because the story of the sellers, typically speaking, is going to be very similar to the story of the buyers. And, if somebody's lived in the house for 15 years and they bought the house to have a place where their kids could come and their grandkids could come, the buyer's probably going to have a very similar story. They're going to want a house that their kids can come and their grandkids can come. And so understanding those emotional reasons why people bought in the first place, that you can now integrate into the personal story and the branding as to why it's important to reach out to those kind of buyers that are coming in from especially from an expat standpoint, from Canada and from the United States.
Perhaps finally, I want to ask you about like any anecdotes you've had so far, like dealing with Costa Rican market.
Over the years, the Costa Rican market has always been, I'm from Southern California, and so there's always been a strong tie from the surf towns of Southern California to the surf towns of Costa Rica. A lot of expat travel back and forth, a lot of people that we knew and, started growing up with. You'd see a family all of a sudden disappear and they went to, Costa Rica because they're like, I'm going to go live the life in Costa Rica. It's great surf, warm weather, warm water, monkeys, all the great things that Costa Rica is known for. And when it comes down to the market, I've seen the market grow and mature over time. And as the infrastructure builds out, as it continues to grow up, I think there's going to be more and more of a conduit between the U.S. and Canada coming down to Costa Rica, especially right now because Mexico is having so many challenges. People are avoiding Mexico and they're moving and they're jumping over and going into Costa Rica, which is, frankly, the safest and most stable country in Latin America.
And with that also comes for agency here simultaneously, there's like opportunity with a growing market, and also like the challenges of more eyes on the products, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Is there for you like a responsibility on the part of like the real estate agent in the luxury realm to also safekeep the essence of what the country means internationally?
Absolutely, it's part of the provenance of the property. And it's also kind of this sacred honor of protecting the culture, right? I mean, one of the things that you have to be careful of is having too many people come down that change the culture and dynamic of this town that you have grown to know and love. And so there is a balance with growth. Growth is a very positive thing. We all want growth, but you have to balance the rapidness of growth over time to not lose the character and the charm of what was there in the first place. And so, yes, there's a deep responsibility, I'd say even a sacred responsibility of the local real estate agents to hold that together and to keep that in context as they're selling this area to somebody that's foreign, that when the foreign come here, they don't try and change the complexion of the area or change the character or culture of the area that they're moving into.
And if one of our listeners wants to reach out to Real Estate Luxury Leaders and likes what they've heard on the podcast so far, how can they do that? And what kind of offerings you have?
Relux, RELUXE leaders.com website, and feel free to reach out. As far as our offerings go, all of our offerings are on an individual client basis, and so we'd love to hear from you and put together a proposal that's unique to you and your situation and your budget.
Perfect. Thanks for coming to the podcast, Chris.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
And if you enjoy the conversation, you can follow us on social media at To Costa Rica Real Estate and see all our backlog of podcasts at your favorite streaming platform at To Costa Rica Real Talk.